I'll call the meeting to order tonight. First thing I'd like to do is read an opening statement from the MSBA in regards to our meeting tonight being held electronically. Due to the current federal and state emergency declarations, the Minnesota Directive to residents to stay at home and guidance about limiting person-to-person contact due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting of the Albert Lea School District is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.21 meetings by telephone or other electronic means. Persons may monitor this meeting from a remote location. The link was supplied by the district around 3:30 this afternoon, and they will also be able to watch the meeting through YouTube, and I believe it is being recorded. School board members wishing to speak should raise their hand to show that they will, and then I will go ahead and determine the order in which the members were wishing to speak, and I'll recognize each one. Board members should unmute their microphone or phone or speaker and then mute it again when they're completed. All votes will be conducted via roll call. Each school board member should wait until their name is called before voting. And the meeting is being recorded again. Access to the recording will be made available at the school district's website as soon as reasonably possible. Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight's open forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the crowd? Ashley.
We did receive one open forum request, and it is from Brad Ahrens, president of the Albert Lea Healthcare Coalition. Good afternoon. In furtherance of their commitment to Albert Lea and the surrounding area, Mercy One has applied to the state of Minnesota for the delivery of air ambulance services to our citizens. Our current sole provider of the service, Mayo Clinic, is using its heavy influence to block this in St. Paul. Accordingly, Mercy One has been requested to provide letters of support from our community. To date, we have received letters of support from 18 businesses, 43 individuals, and 2 public organizations. Mercy One is thrilled with this, but requested and received a 2-week extension on its second application in order to obtain more, specifically the large public employers. To get this done, we must show not only support, but need. All along, Mercy One has been by our side as a true partner in this endeavor, not only with advice and guidance, but financially, putting millions of dollars at risk to help us help our citizens. Mercy One AirMed is just a logical extension of our efforts. Our mission of affordable, high-quality health care for our citizens cannot be attained if all the high-priced medical services are done in Rochester. Heart attacks, cancer, strokes, premature babies, and major accidents account for over 80% of an employer's annual health care spend. We must have another affordable alternative, and that is Mercy One North Iowa, which is a Trauma Center 2 hospital. Albert Lea, Austin, Owatonna, Cannon Falls, and Red Ring are all level 4. Visually, it is imperative that Mercy One feels your support as the largest public employers in this community. We are asking them to go toe-to-toe with the most prestigious medical brand in the world, who is once again trying to control the medical services being delivered to our citizens. And this support will not cost the city, county, or school district one dime, yet your employees will all benefit from it, not only because of the expanded services, but it will be cheaper than Mayo, which is another benefit to the taxpayers. This June will mark 3 years that we have all been on this crusade together. We have come too far to quit now. On behalf of the trustees of the Albert Lea Healthcare Coalition, we thank you for your support. Again, Brad Ahrens, President, Albert Lea Healthcare Coalition.
Thank you, Brad via Ashley. Okay, I'm looking, number 5 for approval for today's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add an item in response to the form presentation by Brad, Mr. Ahrens, and it would probably fit in the 10.3 category. A resolution in support of Mercy One AirMed.
Okay. Now, my understanding of adding a motion, we need a second. Or adding an agenda item, we'd need a second.
I will second.
Okay? What I would like to do, Neil, is actually put it right away at 6.01. So we'll get it right after the, I'm sorry, I want to make it 7.01, so we'll go through the consent items first, and then I will make it 7.01, call it the discussion of Mercy One Air Ambulance. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, and let's see, and I'm sorry, gals, I didn't see you first. Jill, I'll go ahead and recognize you first.
Thank you. I am in support of Mercy One, but I do not believe that an agenda item can be added at the last minute like this unless it's an emergency. So I would like to look into that further before adding the agenda item.
Okay,
I checked with legal this afternoon when this was brought to my attention, and a motion and a second in a regular board meeting can be added. Since this is our regular board meeting and it's not a study session, it can be added to the agenda with the approval of the board.
okay. Kim, did you have a, yep, go ahead, Kim. Oh, just a minute, Kim.
Okay.
There you go. Okay,
I guess that was my question too, is if an action item like this could be added, without us having any kind of, any notice ahead of time, so that question was answered.
okay, thank you. Okay, let's, we'll take a roll call vote. Those in favor of adding 7.01, the discussion of Mercy One Air Ambulance to the agenda, I will read your name and vote yea or nay. Dennis?
Nay.
Kim?
Nay.
Jill?
Nay.
Neil?
Aye.
Ken? Did you say aye, Ken? Okay. And Angie?
Aye.
Okay, and I will vote aye also. Okay, so we will add that at 7.01 before any of our reports. Okay, now, then for the approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion by Neil. Ken? You'll second that motion? Okay. Again, roll call vote. Let's start down at Angie. Angie? For approval of today's agenda, sorry.
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Kim? Okay. Jill?
Nay.
Ken? Ken says aye. Dennis?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
And aye. Okay. Number 6, consent items. Looking for a motion to approve the consent items all as one.
I move to approve the consent items as one.
Okay, Kim made the motion. Any second?
Second.
Neil will second the motion. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, I will go through roll call again. Let's start with Kim,
Aye.
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Ken, Did you hear us, Ken? Approval of the consent? Okay, okay. And Angie?
Aye.
And I for myself too. Okay,
Hey, Ken, we are not picking you up. We can see that you're saying aye and you're not disagreeing with us, but we're not hearing you.
Me?
Ken Peterson.
Ken Peterson.
Ken, okay.
Okay. All right, 7.01, discussion of the Mercy One Air Ambulance. Who would like to start that discussion?
Well, I'll put a motion on the table so we have something to
Yep.
discuss. And here it is. The District 241 School Board supports the efforts of Mercy One Air Med based in Mason City, Iowa, to obtain an EMS service license in the state of Minnesota. So essentially, the motion is a statement of support on the part of the school board to support Mercy's efforts at obtaining a license for their Air Med service.
Any other discussion from anyone? Kim?
So, at first, I'm still concerned about not getting this ahead of time and being able to see really how this plays out legally with taking a stance. I think in Brad's presentation, he specifically names another business in town who the district has significant relationships with. And I just would want some additional information about what that looks like. Is there an application number that they have out there? Is there testament to the fact that they have blocked that? I guess that's all factual, fact-finding things that I would like to see before I support it. But really, my initial thought is, and I apologize if I get emotional because I might. I had the opportunity today to talk to teachers during conferences. And I have a senior in my house. And this district is dealing with a lot of things very, very nicely and the way that we would expect them to. And our administration is tight. Our financials are tight. We have a lot of huge discussion items on our plate. And I feel like, the mission of our school is to even take this on right now and disregard, and I know we're not disregarding what's happening, but I feel like we have so much more that's happening right now for our students, our faculty, our staff, our administration. We're all taxed right now with a lot of emotion and a lot of mental health issues. And I feel like this is not appropriate. I really do. And that's the emotional side. But I also think there is a cognitive side to this too, that we as board members gave an oath that we would uphold the mission of the school district, and to make a decision like this without any kind of back reference on this. And plus, I think there's some other things, that we were told when we got an email about this that it was not school board business, and here we are talking about it. So I'll stop now, but that's my feeling on it.
Jill?
Point of order, I don't think we can have discussion until there's a second.
Was there a second?
I'll second.
I apologize for that.
Okay. That's okay. I thought I'd seen Ken motion second. That was where I got it from. But okay, Ashley, if I didn't get one, I'm sorry. Angie seconded. Thanks, Jill.
So then can we make sure that we have audio for Ken, because I think that's causing a problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I apologize. I put it on mute because I didn't want to have going back into the system here, so that was my fault.
Thank you.
Okay, Ken, would you like to speak toward the discussion?
that when I look at the elderly community, I think, and where we're at in this whole situation, I guess I feel that the community would want us to vote positively to provide a letter of support. Yeah, it would've been nice to have it earlier and possibly, but at the same time, I think, as Kim mentioned, we got a lot of things going on, but at the same time, we have to continue to do what we think is right. And so, I guess at this point, I'm in favor of, just because I see the community and how they've supported that business, and it's not anything against Mayo. I think I was at a meeting and they were with Alita, and they were talking about the future, and one of the best things they said is, you know, our job is not necessarily pick one business over another. Our job is to make it right for all businesses, and so I think for that reason, I'm going to vote positively for this.
Thank you. Dennis?
I will be abstaining. I just don't believe it belongs here. I think there's too many pressure from people telling that. My thought is it's a government issue at the state level, not local. We have too much other stuff to worry about right now. Both sides have their points of view, and I don't want to be in the middle of it. Thank you.
Angie?
I supported, I have supported Saber Healthcare in this process from the beginning, but just taking that bias away, just being able to provide a more rapid response to this type of service, you know, it's the closest at that high level of care that we have. So, you know, it could save a life. So that's why I support it.
Thank you. Jill?
Thank you. Although I didn't agree with adding it to the agenda because it's not an emergency, I do believe that this is an urgent situation for our area. And even though we do have other important things that we are attending to, we must also attend to these important areas as far as health and safety for our community. And I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay. I agree that it did kind of come up here toward the end. It's nice that we have this letter. Brad had even talked about, I'll get you in, Kim, in a second. Brad had talked about coming to the meeting. We said, no, a letter would be good. I support it from a community standpoint and would, but again, there's some of the logistics that I'm not positive on what's going on with here. If the application had been made, if it hasn't, why it hasn't, maybe this is the process, which I'm not sure of. But again, it would be nice to have that second provider to help our citizens out in case of an emergency. Kim?
So I think we're, and I don't want to get too deep into this, and I'm kind of like Dennis, this has no business, in my opinion, being in front of us, but I want to make it clear that I'm not necessarily against choices for our community. I'm more about what position does the school district have in signing this resolution, and legally, are we getting wrapped up in something that we don't know the ramifications on by the potential of signing a resolution potentially on false pretense? Meaning, do we know for certain that Mayo is blocking this application, and have they applied? Is there an application number? When I received Neil's email, I went to the website for emergency medical services, and I couldn't see anything where Mercy Medical had an outstanding application. I don't know that it would be on there, but I didn't see that. So that's my approach on this is really where we are as a district in the commitment we made as board members on what we're going to approve or disapprove.
Okay, thank you. Jill?
Could the resolution be read, please?
District 2, can you hear me? Yep. The District 241 School Board supports the efforts of Mercy One Air Med, based in Mason City, Iowa, to obtain an EMS service license in the state of Minnesota. And Mr. Ahrens and the Elderly Health Coalition is working in connection with Mercy One to introduce an alternate health care provider in Albert Lea, and Mercy One, in the process of doing this, has submitted an application for a license. Like the rest of you, I'm not an expert in this area either, but evidently a license is required in order to have an air med service any place. And so it's a routine application on the part of Mercy One to obtain that licensure so that they can have an air med service, which would transport emergency patients who required care that could not be provided locally to Mason City, which is an alternative that would be available then to the citizens of the Albany area. And that's what the motion is about. And in response to some of the concerns, we as a district have endorsed several ventures on the part of various entities in the past, business and otherwise, to encourage more people to become involved in Albert Lea, to move into the area. And this enterprise would, in fact, I believe, be a boon to our community in terms of services, more services provide, choices, medical choices. It would involve people moving into the area and increasing our population, and all those things that we routinely embrace in tax abatements and other incentives. This effort on our part, I don't see it as being something that would consume our energies in any matter. All we're doing is expressing a support for an enterprise that wants to have a license to have an air med service in Albert Lea.
Joe.
Thank you. So just to be clear, that entire thing was not the resolution. No. The first couple lines was the resolution, right? That we're going to be supporting this to happen, that we would support this to happen. The rest, all about the licensing, et cetera, none of that is in the resolution. There are no other provider names mentioned in the resolution. It's just a resolution of support. There is precedence for this in the district. We have done this several times before in different matters, and some, I believe, included our current healthcare situation. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll just read the first couple on that, yeah.
I'll read it again. The District 241 School Board supports the efforts of Mercy One Air Med, based in Mason City, Iowa, to obtain an EMS service license in the state of Minnesota. So we are expressing our support of their efforts to obtain a license. That's it.
Okay. Dennis, sorry, yes.
Again, I'm just really concerned about unintended consequences. I don't think either party's right or wrong. There's just too much information out there. I'm concerned that we don't want to be a part of dividing the community at this time. We need to bring it together. I think we're well aware of what's going on out there and work being done, but just out of fairness, I will abstain. It doesn't belong here. I don't want to offend anybody on either side. I got to work with people every day, and it's not fair to pit one against the other or get somebody upset. There's a lot of community building we need to do, not dividing apart right now.
Okay. Neil, go ahead.
Sorry, if I might respond to that, my motion and my own opinion in no way is intended to be any kind of a taking sides with anybody. If Mayo were to approach us with a similar request for support to further some project that they have that would benefit our community, I'd be the first to support that too. This is not against anybody. All I am suggesting is that we support an enterprise that wants to do something that would, I think, make our community a better community. I don't see how anybody can really be against that. We're not against any of them. And by the way, that has consistently been the approach of the original Save Our Hospital movement, then Save Our Healthcare, and now the Elderly Healthcare Coalition. It's paramount in the core values of all of those movements to not be against anybody. We totally respect Mayo and all of their efforts. I'm a big fan of Mayo, as a matter of fact. They're a wonderful healthcare provider. That has nothing to do with this. We are simply expressing our support for another endeavor.
Okay.
I believe it's really a state issue. So I don't know, I don't understand why all of the letters and things. It's a state issue. The state's, you turn in the application, the state's gonna decide yes or no. I don't get it.
Okay.
Can
Kim,
I
did
just
you?
say one last thing, because I think it's important? The reason that the resolution's even on the table is because a community member brought it forward. And the premise of bringing it forward was in fact to attack another business. And I don't know, and I've been on the board for 2 years and a year before. I don't know that I've ever seen a resolution that had the premise of that. So I just want to make that clear. I understand what you're saying, but even though the resolution doesn't have that in there, the premise of having the resolution even read or on the agenda is because a community member brought it forward stating that.
Okay, thank you. Jill.
I think we need to be cautious in how we term our community members bringing forth concerns. We cannot say that the purpose was to attack another organization. So I just think we need to be careful in consideration.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yep, go ahead, Mike.
I'm glad to hear the resolution. As you've stated it, Neil, my concern from a legal angle was, the concern was from the statement that was read that Mayo is blocking, okay? And I was concerned that we were going to have a resolution stating Mayo is blocking, we support Mercy One. The way you have crafted the resolution is positive, and we're not putting the district at any risk as long as we're not mentioning the fact that Mayo is blocking. And I think that statement that was read is being reverberated throughout the community, and I think that's why we are hearing some concerns from some board members on this.
Okay.
Ed, if I may respond to that too. I too was a little concerned with that, and I don't quite understand why Brad included that statement. It is inconsistent with so many other statements that he has made, and at the heart of the whole movement is to be pro-elderly community, not against anybody. And if Brad were here, I'm sure he would say that too.
Okay. All right. Not seeing any more hands, I'm going to go ahead and call the question on the roll call vote, and I will start with Neil.
Aye.
Angie.
Aye.
Thank you. Ken?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Kim?
No.
Dennis is abstained, correct, Dennis?
Abstain.
Still? Okay. And I will say aye. So we would want that resolution jotted down, and we will say that.
Yeah, I've already given it to
Okay.
Ashley.
Thank you. All right, let's head on to 7-7 right now. Report, school board, superintendent report, Dr. Funk.
Okay, thank you. All right, distance learning. So I would say that we've been surveying each of the schools, and I haven't seen all the surveys yet, but from what I've seen, it's been very positive. And at the same time, I would tell you that I think our teachers, our students, and our families are being stretched, and I think they're being stressed in new ways that they have not been before. And so I just publicly want to say how fortunate we are to have great teachers who are stepping up and going the extra mile to make this as successful as possible for our students. And I also want to really thank the families in our community for what they've been doing to support our students in this time of need and stress. And having said that, we've been talking to a lot of people over the last few weeks, and we have really been, I would say, putting the pedal down on this distance learning thing. And so we are, starting this Wednesday, going to be implementing a pause into what we're doing during the week. So essentially, there will be no new assignments that come out on Wednesdays. Students will have an opportunity to catch up on their work. They will be able to give families an opportunity to help their kids caught up. It'll give teachers some planning time. It'll give teachers some collaboration time. And I think it hopefully will reduce the stress level for some folks in our community as we're moving forward here. Because I think we started off with a bang, and we've been just going ever since. And so if we're going to be successful in this distance learning model for the duration, I think we're going to need that pause in the middle of the week that we're talking about. So what I mean by that is teachers are still going to be available. They're still going to be there helping kids. Special services, if kids are getting speech therapy on Wednesdays, they will still get their speech therapy on Wednesdays. If they're getting their EL services, if that's the way the schedule's made, they'll still get it. But your general classroom assignments will be paused on Wednesdays, so people and students and families can get caught up. Okay. Our support services.
Question?
Yes.
There was an article today in the Minneapolis Tribune that in the Twin Cities, several students have just ignored the online training and aren't participating. Do we have any feel for that in our district?
We have, what we're tracking right now is a 15-day drop. And so we have to drop students from our rolls after 15 days if we've had no contact with them or if they're not participating. I don't have district-wide numbers. I can tell you we had 2 students out of the 1,200 and some we have at the high school that we know have dropped after the 15 days. So what systems do we have in place to support our students? We have paraprofessionals who are calling students during the day, in addition to the teachers. We have social workers who are working with students and families on mental health issues related to this. We have success coaches who are working with our families who may be struggling with the language barrier, with the technology. So as many direct support folks that we have teaching, I think we have almost as much in support of those families between paras, social workers, EAs, and our success coaches.
Okay, thank you.
Now, related to the shutdown or the distance learning is our essential worker child care. We're averaging between 20 and 26 children a day. Our paras and EAs have the lead on this, and we're rotating a different crew through every week. We also have principals. We have principals covering the building every day, so there's a different administrator in the building Monday through Friday to help with any issues that may come up with our students in that building. We're averaging somewhere 1,800 breakfasts and lunches a day total. We're going to try something different this Friday. We're going to try a heated option, and we're working on how we're getting that communication out. So food will be sent home, and then We'll be asking the families to heat it up, something a little bit different than what they've been getting, and we'll get feedback on that. Custodial support is back. We had the executive order about a week and a half ago that said maintaining your physical buildings is an essential service. So all of our custodians are back and working and getting prepared for summer cleaning. Financial impact, the biggest thing financially for the district is we are able to provide or get medical assistance from the government for some of the services, our OT, PT, some other services that we provide, because we can't do those services in a reimbursable format through the federal government, through online or through distance learning. We are in the realm of looking at maybe a $200,000 to $300,000 shortfall from medical assistance from the government on this. That's the negative side about it. But we also have, less utilities being utilized, significantly reduced travel. We don't have any sports activities going on, and so we're able to balance the budget somewhat. We're still at a slight deficit, though, as far as right now with the hit on the third-party billing. Go ahead, Ashley.
No, so no government programs at this time to help support schools and their shortfalls?
Have not seen anything flow through the state yet.
Okay.
We're still waiting.
Okay.
High reliability schools, that this is one of the big initiatives for the district, and a few weeks ago we said, well, gee, we don't have school anymore. We don't, but we still have staff, and we did a lot of work for these different schools, and so 5 of the 6 have been recognized as level 1 schools for safe, supportive, and collaborative cultures, and part of that is going through a really rigorous checklist process. I just sat in on the high school one about a week and a half ago, and we had an individual from Texas was the one who led us through that process. So that's a real positive for the staff of this district because they've really worked hard on it at the building level. And Sibley will be the last school in the district to get certified in this, and that will happen in early May. Way ahead, here's my perspective on what I see happening, and this is just mine. I think it's very unlikely that school will resume in a traditional format this spring. Our cases are still peaking in Minnesota, and I can't see the governor coming out in the next week saying, okay, we're coming back. I just don't see it happening. The State High School League is still holding out hope that spring sports are going to return. I don't see that happening either. Hate to be a downer, but I think that's just the reality of where we're at. Mark Roseclaus is here tonight, and he's going to present a variety of different options that we could look at for graduation, including if we want to do it here on May 22nd, or, I mentioned, I think, in the board packet that we could push it out to later this summer. That's clearly up to the board to decide what they want to do with that tonight. And then as far as summer school programming, that's a big unknown at this point. We cannot do distance learning for summer school unless there's some change at the federal and state level. The other thing I'd like to state is, we're finishing with school here in about a month, I think May 22nd. We do the essential daycare piece while school is in session. I don't know what's going to happen to essential daycare when we're not in school anymore. So that's a real question we have for the state and the federal government. What's the district's requirement going to be on that, and are we going to continue? Are we going to get funding to do that? So that's my report tonight.
Thank you. All right, school board reports. Ken, haven't started with you yet.
No update.
Okay. Angie?
I have my first co-op meeting tomorrow, so I'm kind of excited for that. And then, Kim, you'll have to, when it's your turn, jump in to see if I explain this right. The Teacher of the Year, they had scheduled that for April 14th to do a distance Teacher of the Year ceremony. in cars, but make sure they're doing like a Facebook Live component, and then also contacting the media. And it got changed because of the snow. So it's actually rescheduled for tomorrow at 3 p.m. So that should be on Facebook Live, and also check the media to see the reporting on that. The decision, my understanding is you know, it's kind of nice that during these times that still have some celebrations and some sense of normalcy and enjoy some of that good stuff. So I think that was kind of the premise, to make sure that we're doing something.
Kim.
That's all.
Oh, thank you, Angie. Kim.
Yeah, Angie, that's right on. The only other thing I would add is that they're planning on working with Dr. Funk and others that schedule the fall first day meeting to recognize those the finalists, and then actually the winner, and then also potentially invite family or something like that. So they're going to work on that. So they'll get recognition for the whole district to get excited for them as well. But you can, I know that some of the committee will be there and tomorrow, and the finalists will have balloons delivered to their cars. So that's kind of a fun way to do it. So that was, we were doing Google Classroom meetings for that. So that was something new for me. So that was kind of cool. And then the only other thing that I have to report on is contact that I've had with the high school as it relates to parent and student interaction over distance learning. And I think I have the opportunity as a school board member, because I have a student in the school, to just report out on that. And I've had the opportunity to hear my daughter in classrooms, and they are making the best of a really rough situation. And I know Mark is in the room, and those teachers that I've had an opportunity to speak with, I have given them huge shout outs. But I've gone on We Listen and done a survey, and I also just want you to know that we know that comes with good leadership. And all the responses I've gotten from students through social distancing and this unprecedented time has been positive in a really rough situation. So I applaud the high school specifically, because that's where I have a touch. So it's relieving to know that in this tough situation we have the ability to make light of some things. I even heard Kevin Gentz in their class, they do a birthday celebration. When someone's birthday is, they sing happy birthday during their class time, and they did it over Google Classroom last week. So it was very cool. So that's my report.
Thank you. Dennis.
No meetings to report, kind of quiet on the meeting front. Hopefully some will get going again. Want to compliment the school district, top all the way down, for the efforts that they're putting in with the children and accomplishing the online learning. It's no easy task. It's a total change for everybody from their normal operations. Appreciate the school district having the Y parking lot as a drop site for distribution of food. A lot of good comments from the neighborhood of the families that are truly in need of that. So that food program is just huge for the district right now. So kudos on that. Hopefully we'll get back to some normalcy soon. But in the meantime, it's good to see the adjustments that are being made and how hard everybody is working to make good things happen. So to everybody in the school district, keep up the good work.
Thank you. Neil.
Okay, yeah, I would like to add my congratulations to everyone who's been working so hard to make a really nasty situation better. Just one anecdote. I had a student that's pretty close to me who lobbied heavily to me as a school board member to do everything I could to see if on coming back from spring break we could extend things a little bit and lengthen the spring break. And last week I contacted this individual and asked if he were satisfied yet, and he said, yes, I'm definitely satisfied. I'm ready to come back anytime. He's doing very well, but he's an A student. But And I'm especially concerned, or my heart goes out to those students that are seniors. I have a granddaughter, not in our district, but in another one, who is suffering the same thing that all seniors are. They're missing some of the most wonderful experiences that they have looked forward to for so long now aren't going to happen. And it's really too bad, you know. I emailed my granddaughter and said, well, at least you can rest in the fact that you have experienced something that nobody else has ever experienced before, and it's kind of a unique experience. And she suggested that you could say the same thing about a toothache. But my heart really does go out to those seniors. I've been involved with the Education Foundation, of course, and the Mary Jo Dorman is going to send out an announcement to staff, teachers next week or shortly, advertising the teacher grants, which need to be in by June 20th, I believe, and so that's something to look forward to. Hopefully next year, you know, will be a little bit more normal. And so teachers can get back into the classroom with students and take advantage of those grants. That's it.
Jill?
No meetings to report.
Okay. The only thing that I really have is I really enjoyed driving out to see the lights all lit up on Hammerfield. Thank you, Kim. And a lot of community members, which I'm sure contacted all of us. That was a great event, and I hope you know, anything we can do to make them feel special. When I won't even tell you which milestone birthday I had, but I got an asterisk by my name now. I've always wanted an asterisk for something. I guess that was it. But it's one of those years that we got to do anything we can, and I know we're going to speak about it here in a few minutes, if I don't keep us from that too long. And the second thing is I've had my chance to talk to a lot of teachers and students about the distance learning, and the consensus was simple. The first week was rough, and the second week was a lot better. And it's been very well organized, and even now this Wednesday break, I think it's a great example of thinking about our kids first and helping them get through tough times, along with the families too. So thank you to the administration, a big thank you to the teachers, and I look forward tomorrow to handing some balloons out and hope it's not too windy to fly away. Aaron, one of our students, how is your distance learning going?
It's going really well for me, and I know my favorite part of any position that I hold, and I'm sure some of you can relate, is talking with people and receiving that feedback from people. Can't get enough of it. And the general consensus has been that distance learning has been a huge success, in very large part due to teachers, of course, students, parents. But one person that I've gotten a lot of praise for is the principal at the Elderly High School, Mr. Grossklaus. I think he's listening somewhere, but I can't stop hearing enough praise from him. From students about him. They love what he's doing. They're really happy he's been as communicative as he has been. And I even heard a couple of teachers be really great for everything he's done for him. But other than that, not much to report really. Some students aren't too happy with distance learning, but a lot of them are. I've kind of heard mixed things about what we're trying this week with having Wednesday off for some students. Some students were unhappy about already getting a little bit of their class time taken away and a little bit of their education, especially some of the seniors that I talked to. But then some students were really glad we were getting an extra day to just work on stuff with teachers and get a little more communication in there. But, other than that, I want to thank everyone that has already been said. Our district teachers, principals, other staff, parents, and the students for helping make distance learning work for District 241. Thanks.
Thank you. And no teachers tonight, so what's that? Oh, who did I see? Oh, Angie, sorry.
rave on Mr. Dibble a little bit. Southwest has been going really, really well as well. And I remember on the first day there was a video from Mr. Dibble, and I made my son watch it. And anyway, it is going really, really well. The teachers are doing a really good job. Communication is great. I do think I do think that the Wednesday, my son really likes the Wednesday catch-up day. We'll just say that. And I know we're doing okay here, but it's just a nice little break in the week. But I do know that other families and other students actually might need that, so it's kind of nice. And honestly, I'm kind of thinking, oh, maybe I should be doing that with my students as well. So I think that was nice, just to kind of showing the students that you appreciate all the work they're doing and giving them a little bit of a break. But yeah, Southwest is going it's really, really good. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. All right, Safe and Healthy Schools, nothing under their curriculum and instruction. Mark Grossklaus, graduation ceremony.
Board members, May 22nd is graduation at 7 p.m. at Albert Lea High School. That's what's on the calendar. That's what we've been planning for a whole year. I do not believe we'll be able to do that, so we're looking for feedback from the board on some different options. And so we've been reviewing a lot of things. We still need to plan for graduation, but what does that look like? So there is the option of postponing it and physically having it later on. I'm not sure how long later on, if that's July. A lot of it will be based on the governor and the president's comments on distance learning and all that. We've talked about physically, how do we do it? We could do it at the high school. Do you limit the number of tickets, spacing, those type of things? It's been discussed possibility of doing it at the stadium. Once again, we'd have to look at distance and spacing. What's the time? We've also been contacted, of course, by vendors for virtual graduations. I sat in on a webinar today about one of the vendors that we actually work with. So kind of looking for feedback where the board would like to go with this. We know it won't be May 22nd, sadly to say. And so just kind of looking for some direction from the board.
Ken.
Yeah. So, or did you say Ken?
I did, but you can go, Kim. You have a senior. You go first.
No, that's okay. That's okay because I didn't raise my hand.
Okay.
So.
Ken, go ahead. Kenny, I'll say.
Well, I know it's important that we have it. I've heard from a lot of seniors that they don't want to go past this stage and lose it. So I think they would like to know when it is so they can plan around it. And so I'm good with that July 24th date. You know, we'll have to, you know, when we get closer, we'll have to decide where do we do it and what kind of situation are we going to be in. But I think we can wait on that, and July 24th gives us enough time to do that.
Aaron, hand up. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so I kind of want to agree with that. All the seniors I've talked to are very, very set on doing something in person and not digital. They've built up in their head over the past 13 years of walking across that stage, shaking the principal's hand, and taking that diploma. And that's, from the ones I've talked to, that's what they want to do. And I don't think a virtual convention should be tolerated by all of them, quite frankly.
Thank you. Kim.
Yeah, so after I got the agenda, I sat with Sydney and she said that she's been able to get through not having prom and not having the senior dinner dance and not having maybe awards and recognition night and doing our baccalaureate at church potentially virtually, but she said she would really struggle with not having something in person. And if July 24th gives us that opportunity, she definitely was for that. So that goes along with what Ken and Aaron were saying. I feel like there's no damage in waiting and setting another date. And I think that the resilience of this senior class has been tested enough to maybe give them that, afford them that.
Thank you. Dennis. Oh, say Dennis.
First off, Mark, thank you for all the efforts you're putting into that. I think, as everybody's saying, it's so important for the kids to have closure as they start to their new chapter. As Kim said, they've lost out on a lot this year already, so we still need to have it memorable in person so that they can have closure to that and have their celebration. So totally supportive of the July.
Okay, Jill.
I also support something in person if we can make that happen at all. So hopefully the July date would be a good date. I'm also appreciative for everything the different community members and groups are doing to support and honor our seniors during this time with the yard signs. There's another, and et cetera, a lot going on. And there's another group that's putting together possibly having the seniors photos on the flags on the lights in the city. That would be a beautiful thing as well. So I really appreciate the community effort to support those seniors as well.
Thank you. Angie.
Yeah, I support the later date as well. I mean, pushing it back that far will have a good, much better chance of having an in-person event, and waiting much longer, you probably, won't do much difference after that. So I think that that's a good date. It's far enough out that gives us the best chance to have it in person, and then everyone can get it in their schedule and everything too, and plan around that for parties or anything as well. So I think it's a really good idea.
Thank you. Neil, yeah.
Well, yeah, I too think that the later the better. And I don't know of any possible conflicts that a graduating senior might have with a date as late as July 4th. I can't think of any, but I'm just wondering if there might be some conflicts that could arise. But again, people have to have time to plan, and we can't, suggest a date other than the 22nd of May that's in June, but it'd just be a nightmare for people to change their schedules. So I guess my only concern would be if there are any events or any commitments that would preclude a student's ability to attend in the 24th of July, and I don't know of any.
Bean walking. Kim.
Yeah, Neil, that's a great point. I think the only thing that maybe would hinder that would be any of the students that are doing some college orientation, but I think most of those are like not on a Friday evening, so they would be, different dates, and they have an opportunity to schedule that at most schools from multiple dates. So if they have this date ahead of time, they'll try to steer away from that. So Mark, I just have a follow-up question. Is there, I want to thank you too. I know that you've done extra special things for people that are turning 18 even. So thank you for all of your extra work. But I know that one of the questions that came up from some seniors was about awards and recognition, if there's been any talk about how that will lay out or roll out.
So we're still doing that. We're going to end up doing virtually, and we're working on that right now. So I know I talked to one of the people from the Educational Foundation on Saturday about scholarships. And so as soon as we have some more information, we would let the seniors know, and we'll release it at a certain time, so there's still that surprise factor to it, so it's not one of those things where, well, we'll have it on Monday, we'll have it at a certain time. So I would suspect it'll still be the same date and same time. We'll just release it so people can see it live.
Perfect. Thank you.
Dennis?
I'd make a motion that under the current circumstances and situations that we know, that we approve the July 24th graduation date, pending any other adjustments or issues that may arise.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
You got a second too? Okay. My only discussion is, yes, we need to do something for these kids, and I think the 24th should give everyone a chance to schedule around it, so.
So people, regardless on the large gatherings, I think people will be able to have graduation parties in July. Maybe we will not be able to have the whole stadium full of people, but I think so that'll benefit families. The other thing that we've talked about, and I may have mentioned this to a couple folks, is if they do come forward and they say you can't have the large gatherings in a gymnasium, or you can't have large gatherings in the stadium, a concept we're looking at, and we'd have to somehow limit this, but a concept we're looking at is the outdoor drive-in movie theater concept, where we would build a stage, probably at Albert Lee High School's parking lot, and people would come and park, and we would have the students come up and walk across the stage in the parking lot. We would have it broadcast on K Radio or Power 96, so people could hear things in their cars. And that way, we would have the social distancing in place, and yet kids would be able to come up and walk across, and people could watch them. So that's probably worst case scenario, something we're looking at doing, but again, it'll be dependent upon the events on the ground.
Good, thank you. Jill?
How many graduates are there, including ALC?
I would say with the ALC in there, you're looking at 230, 240.
Okay, I believe we did have a motion, didn't we, in a second? Making July 24th is our proposed tentative graduation date, or we proposed right now, wouldn't it? Let's leave it.
I think that families are looking for certainty for planning purposes, so.
So that would be our date. Ashley, you know how to wordsmith that, so. Any other discussion? If not, let's go to a roll call vote. Jill?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Aye.
Kim? Angie?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I for myself. 7-0 pass. Thank you, Mark. Okay, number 10, effective and efficient operations, resolution relating to termination
Chair,
and
there's
not.
a question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So, quick for Mr. Gross, if he's still there. So I know in unusual years, seniors will have a couple less days at the end of the year. Is it going to be the same situation this year, or is seniors going to be assigned just learning a little bit less at the end of the year than, say, normal?
That hasn't been discussed yet.
Does that remain the same?
That has not been decided yet. Right, Eric?
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you, Aaron. Sorry I missed you. Okay, let's, Kathy Niebuhr, resolution relating to the termination non-renewal of teaching contracts for probationary teachers, 10.1.
So the board has 3 resolutions. Three resolutions related to personnel. The first is the resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of the teaching contract of probationary teachers.
Okay, any discussion?
Want a motion first?
Yeah, sorry, Ken, yeah. I'll look for a motion to non-renew the contracts of probationary teachers as so listed.
So move.
Motion is made by Ken. Any seconds?
Second, Kim.
Kim, second. Okay, sorry, now we got discussion. Okay, without hearing any discussion, we will go to a roll call vote. Let's start with Angie.
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
And I for myself. Okay, 10.2, resolution discontinuing and reducing educational programs and positions. Kathy Nieber.
Per the direction of the board to the superintendent, there are reductions as indicated on this resolution for discontinuing and reducing educational programs and positions.
Looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Got a motion by Neil. Any second?
Second.
We have a second. Who is that? Jill. Okay, sorry. Discussion, please. Anyone have any discussion?
Hang on.
Oh, was
Jill, was that you on the second? Or,
That's correct.
okay.
okay? Thank you. Sorry, I missed you. All right. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll roll call vote. Neil.
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
Kim.
Aye.
Jill.
Aye.
Kenny. Kenny.
Aye.
Angie.
Yeah, aye.
Okay. Angie.
Aye.
And I for myself. Okay, 10.3, placing licensed staff member on unrequested leave of absence. Kathy.
Per direction of the board to the superintendent, reduction along with the previous resolution puts a administrator on unrequested leave of absence.
Looking for a motion to accept.
So move.
Motion by Ken, second.
Second.
Neil seconds. Any discussion? Okay, if not, we'll do a roll call vote. Kim?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Kenny?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
And I for myself. And 7.4, this will be for, thank you, Kathy. Sorry. Jennifer Walsh, 2020 and 2021 health insurance, we're looking for an approval, 10.4.
All right, thank you. You saw from my memo, we had contracted with Aaron Casper, who you can now see on the screen, and National Insurance Services last fall to run a request for proposal for our health insurance. As you guys all know, we've experienced some pretty high increases the last couple of years. So we wanted to get an objective third party in to just really open up our field of what was out there and what we could see from other carriers. And so Neil, I'm sure will have an opportunity and want to speak because he was very involved with the insurance committee. We've met about 5 times over the course of the last few months, including 2 times to go over the recommendations. So Aaron is going to share his screen and kind of work through with the school board the recommendation and why we've gone the direction we have.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. Well, good evening, school board and Dr. Funk and Jennifer. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I think the host has got it disabled, so if you could give me permission, I'll go ahead and run through the deck. Okay, perfect, thank you. Let's see here. Give me a second here. Let's see here. Just give me 1 second. All right. Okay, another shot here. I am not seeing it on my screen here. Jennifer, do you have
We're working on our end to try and get it so you can. Hold on.
Oh, here we go. I've got it. Does everyone see that?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much for your patience. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and run you through the process, the request for proposal process that Jennifer had mentioned on the opening introduction. So really what we did is we took the district through a bid process that's required under statute to go through every 2 years. So what we did is we issued this proposal back in the first part of this year, back in January 9th of 2020. We did follow the statutory requirements of the bid law. And essentially what we need to do, as I mentioned, is every 2 years we need to go out for bid. And then we have to receive at least 3 proposals, one of which needs to be from Public Employees Insurance Program, which is PEEP. And we did meet those requirements. And so you can see there. So our results, if we go on to the next slide, actually, we had a great response. We received a total of 7 responses, including our incumbent carrier, which is Health Partners through the Sourcewell pool. And then in every one of our HITA, Health Insurance Transparency Act bid processes, we always offer and allow for a best and final. And we did issue a best and final response after our first bids came in, and we received 1 best and final response from Blue Cross Blue Shield on their self-insured proposal. So the respondent proposals, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the 3 most competitive proposals on here when we're talking about overall plan, price, etc. And then I can speak to if there's any questions on the other respondents, but really we kind of want to fish where the fish are here, so to speak. So on the respondent proposal, we always like to start with our incumbent carrier. So we're currently insured with Health Partners, and this is through a self-insured pool, the Sourcewell pool, based out of Staples, Minnesota. And you can see here on the financial summary that their response came in with a 14% rate increase for July 1, 2020. So essentially what that means, if you go down in the 3rd bullet point there, that's an increase of, would have been an increase of $1.164 million if we would have accepted that proposal. Sourcewell and Health Partners also did provide a 2nd-year rate cap of 12% in the 2021 renewal. So if we would have accepted that initial proposal, and we always assume rate caps, so typically they don't come in below that, we'd have been looking at an increase, an overall increase over 2 years of $3.45 million. So this is clearly one of the reasons why we did not make a recommendation for Health Partners and Sourcewell. And not that they haven't been a good partner, they have, but they've incurred some losses, as Jennifer mentioned, and they're going to try to recoup those losses in that bid. And unfortunately for them, the market proved to be competitive. So when we come through, what that means, what that would have meant for our plans, is for a 1,200 plan, 2,250 plan, and 3,000 plan, as well as our minimum value, or what we have positioned as our minimum value for ACA purposes, we'd have been looking at a range of anywhere from 14% to 14.7% relative to the plans. So the next proposal was from the South Central Service Cooperative, again, another self-insured pool, and they have Blue Cross Blue Shield as their administrator. And they came back with a zero, so essentially a pass renewal for year one, so no change to current revenue and no change to the plans that we have. So it would have been a zero in year one. And then typically, what we would assume, and with these type of cooperative responses, specifically with South Central, is that they generally do a cap of trend in year two. So if we were to make that assumption, that cap in year two would probably put us right around a 4.25% rate increase over 2 years, assuming that cap. And as I mentioned before, if we would have selected them, we would have negotiated, tried to negotiate that cap and secured that, and we anticipate that's where that would have came in. The third response was again from Blue Cross Blue Shield. However, unlike the former two respondents, where we're dealing with a self-insured pool, this is actually a standalone self-insured plan where the district actually would be hiring and having Blue Cross Blue Shield have access to their network and really self-insuring on a standalone basis, so not in a pool. And just for a little perspective, for the years that you were in the Sourcewell pool, you were the largest group in the pool. And we have clients all over the state, in particular some clients that are close by, relatively large ones, Mankato, which is the largest school district in the South Central pool, as well as Owatonna Public Schools, which is the largest district in the Southeast Service Cooperative pool. And generally what happens in that environment is those pools, depending on how well they're reserved, they tend to go in the direction that those largest members go in terms of claims. So when you're having good years, the pool's doing well. When you're having some challenging years relative to claims, the pool sometimes slips down and it reduces their capacity to respond in these types of bid environments. So when we take a look at a standalone self-insured response, well, this is the Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I'll just show you the percentage on the plans here. So overall, we're asking the board to accept and approve a 5.62% increase for medical insurance to move to the standalone self-insured plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And this is what it would look like in terms of the increases on our specific plans for those 4 plans that we're offering to employees. So you see our overall increase there on the bottom of the screen at 5.62%. What that looks like from a rating perspective, so this is the current rates that we have right now with Health Partners in the Sourcewell standalone or Sourcewell pool on the left-hand column, and then what the proposed rates would be in the self-insured arena. You can see kind of how those would shake up. And I would draw your attention to these numbers here in the middle column. What this is showing you here is where our current enrollment lies relative to our employee selection for these plans. So for our 1200 plan, we have 119 current contracts that have elected single coverage in the $1,200 plan, 28 for the family coverage in that plan, and you can see that correspondingly cascade through the rest of the plan offerings. Our 6350 plan is really an ACA, an Affordable Care Act plan that we will have just so that we can go ahead and meet affordability calculations if need be. We don't seem to be having a problem with that right now, but we do have that plan kind of behind the curtain, and we can use it as we deem appropriate. So when we take a look at the financials, the 5.62% represents a $461,000 increase, and the district is assuming a $489,000 risk component. But it's really not dollar for dollars, and let me kind of explain this to you. As we go through the recommendation, the selection criteria were planned adherence to the RFP our network, that's important that we can go ahead and offer our employees the ability to have choice in their networks and a broad network at that. The risk associated with the plan, so that's the dollars and the cents, and then the customer service that not only the employees would receive and their dependents, but also from a plan sponsor perspective. So some of us would say, well, hey, why are we recommending to go with standalone self-insured at a 5.62 if we've got a 0 on the table and a potential rate cap in year 2? And it really comes down to the plain fact that as we look at this recommendation, I'll kind of slowly scroll through this, is that what self-insurance does is it gives us as a plan sponsor, so the district, the ultimate flexibility in plan design selection, what we do with rating, and most importantly, what we do with our reserves. So right now, we are essentially protecting the Sourcewell pooled self-insured pool, okay? So what we're doing is we're paying as a portion of our premium equivalence stop-loss protection insurance for the co-op and aggregate protection. So the specific stop-loss is an amount, and I'll use $125,000 as an example. So any particular claimant that would go past $125,000, so if we had a $200,000 claimant, if we have our specific stop-loss set at $125,000, we are responsible for the first $125,000, and then that $75,000 difference up to that $200,000 amount for that particular claim would be borne by the stop-loss carrier. So it's essentially insurance on insurance. So those are individual claimants that we have a protection on, and then there's an aggregate protection. So we're currently at 115 or a 15% corridor over what our expected claims would be. And so what that means is that anything 15%, up to 15% over our expected claims, if it goes over that 15% threshold, then that's where the aggregate policy would kick in. And then we are essentially protecting ourselves. So we know that we have protection not only on an individual claim level, but then also on an aggregate level. So when we kind of slide down through here and look at our rationale, the big thing is flexibility, to be able to utilize our plan as possible, as we wish, and especially since we have a standalone clinic, which we are going to be able to maintain. But let me show you here the second page. Really, on the second page of our recommendation in this first paragraph, if you notice here, by utilizing stop-loss protection, the renewal workups display a variance of nearly $2 million. So we think, and we're pretty sure of this, that there was $2 million of higher claims that we incurred over the last 24-month period of time. Now, there was stop-loss protection that we were paying for Sourcewell. So what's happened is that we calculated out that there was $2 million of essentially pooling charges that were returned through the cooperative. And those are the that's how basically insurance companies make money. So even in an environment where you have high claims, it's $2 million that is essentially coming back in those pooling charges. And those are rarely, if ever, kind of filter down to the plan sponsor level or the district. So Albert Lee Schools in this example, because they're holding that as part of their profit in their administrative fees. So in a standalone self-insured environment, really what we're trying to do is we're trying to put in the protections that we can to protect us and our bottom line, but then also be in a position where we can actually benefit financially the same way that a carrier would benefit and or a pool would benefit. So when we kind of look through and do our analysis, when we do our numbers, what our models are telling us, and we have just under 10 standalone self-insured clients. What our models tell us is anytime that we have the recommended self-funding rates in terms of our risk, that $489,000 we talked about, when our lag is larger than that risk component, which it is in this example, if you take a look at that $623,000, that's the time being when claims will stop being paid by Sourcewell and Health Partners on June 30th, and the time it takes for claims to start to hit and accrue on a go-forward basis. So when that lag comes on, and that's larger than our risk component, it's a green light to go self-insured, because we're picking that up. We've got that protection in place. And I would also argue that, taking a look at our claims, we had an unusually high amount of high claims in our last 24-month claim cycle that we took a look at. So we tend to generally normalize after those occur. In addition to the fact, when you're, again, going back to the flexibility component, what we're able to do in the self-insured world is actually put in and deploy countermeasures to help protect our plan relative to the risk. And I think you're already sitting on a gem right now in that clinic that we have actually in the district office. And we've had this discussion in the insurance committee and certainly with district administration that we need to leverage that clinic more. Obviously, we're in a unique environment today, but once we start to normalize from a claims utilization perspective and people coming back into the workforce and being able to engage, we look to leverage that out further as we go forward. So just in closing, I'm giving you a lot of information here. One thing self-insurance isn't is it's not the silver bullet. It's not the silver bullet to help, but what it really does is it gives us control over our plan, so we're not at the whim of the market. And I guess before I open it up to any questions or comments, I would say that generally speaking, when we have high claims or we have an increase in overall claim utilization, the market is going to give us an increase. That's what's going to happen. So we might as well give ourselves the increase and actually put some padding in the bank for us, as opposed to the insurance company or a pool. And it's not that pools are bad, and it's not that insurance companies are bad, because I'm not saying that. But what it does do is it gives us the opportunity to really have more control over our direction going forward when we're having contract negotiations, and then when we're taking a look at our plans and how we're directly impacting not only our bottom line, but then also our employees' experience within the plan. So before I stop sharing the screen, I guess I'd ask if there's any questions that you might want me to refer back to.
Aaron, briefly talk through PEEP.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Funk. So the PEEP proposal, they represented a 1.2% decrease. However, with their plan, number one, we couldn't continue our clinic. And we did a survey early on with all staff, and overwhelmingly, that clinic is something that they want to hang on to. So in addition to having to scuttle our clinic, what would happen is there would be a fairly large disruption. It's a primary clinic model. Number one, we have an open access network model today. So essentially, employees can choose where they go and when they want to go for care. They would have to, if we were to go with the PEEP model, they would have to select a clinic, and they would have to work through that. Now, they can change on a monthly basis, but it's a hassle to do that. And furthermore, there are three different plan options. There's an Advantage plan, a Value plan, and then an HSA plan. And although the premiums would be the same for any one of those three plans, respectively, there's 4 different cost levels associated with each of those plans. Tier 1 being the least expensive from an out-of-pocket perspective, and then as it ratchets up to tier level 4, which is the most expensive from an out-of-pocket perspective. And it would be a pretty large disruption to transition to a PEEP. And then we have a 2-year commitment, and we don't know what year 2 is going to be. And then my last thing on PEEP, we did receive a letter from Innovo Benefits, which is the administrator of the PEEP plan, and they delayed the renewals 30 days for their July 1st, given the COVID-19 situation. And in their letter, they indicated that they're assessing, or their actuaries are assessing, whether or not they may be seeing double-digit increases in their future renewals, so that they're kind of priming the pump that future renewals may be much higher than the pool has previously experienced in the past. So And obviously, they're a statewide pool, so they're capturing various components, so they're factoring that in, not just in Albert Liddy. Did that answer your question, Mike?
Yes, it did, thank you.
Okay. I know I gave you a lot of information there this afternoon, so if you've got any other questions, by all means, let me know.
Discussion, anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Aaron? Kim?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I have this clear. So with PEEP, there would be no choice of provider. You'd have to pick one. And with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the employee has a choice on where they would like to receive their care.
Yeah, so Kim, how it works with PEEP is that you'd have to first select a carrier. They have 3 different carriers. You can select Blue Cross Blue Shield, Health Partners, or Preferred One. Once an employee were to select one of those carriers, then they have to identify with a primary care clinic. And once they select that clinic, that's kind of their home base. And then they have to go through and receive any type of referrals through that clinic. Now, they do have the ability to change. I want to make sure I represent them transparently. They do have the ability to have individuals change on a monthly basis if they wanted to move from one clinic to the other. So that can happen, but it's compared to what you just described today, employee A can go anywhere they want under the Blue Cross Blue Shield open access network.
Angie, go ahead.
I'm in support of whatever the district employees are in support of, and it sounds like the clinic is very popular. So no, this probably makes the most sense. I would just like to highlight that PEEP is the cheapest. We actually get a reduction in rates compared to the rest. I'm always gotta, talk about PEEP. I'm a proponent of PEEP. My district moved to PEEP itself, so I just want to point out that it is cheaper, but I do understand that there are other factors in Alberta. And I support whatever the employees prefer.
I did want to mention that the insurance committee was made up of representatives of all of our groups. We had very good participation at the meetings. It was a really engaged group, and especially if we go self-insured, that committee would remain a very active committee and would meet several times each year.
I can second that. I was at those meetings also, and I was impressed by the complexity of the questions and the integrity of the understanding of the various members that were there representing all the groups. It was pretty impressive.
So Neil,
go ahead.
The committee really recommended this direction?
Yes, they did. There are a number of features that are very desirable. The open network, people can choose whatever provider they want. The ability to maintain our clinic and the cost of it's pretty much a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned in terms of just the difference in cost of these various plans. And I like the self-insurance or the self-funded plan. As Aaron pointed out, it gives us control over the direction that we take, and we also realize that cushion, between the cap expenses and what we actually spend if we spend less than that. So it has a lot of advantages.
Couple questions, Aaron. First of all, just a quick PEEP question. You brought up one to me. When you talk about the ability to change, and I know this is out of the picture, but it's my own information as an insurance person. If they change on a monthly basis, do they have to then, does that new clinic have to take them, or are they on a standby and wait type of C?
So Dr. Funk, I don't think they have to take them because some clinics are closed to new patients. That's a great question. It's a dive in the weeds. I'm not sure exactly how PEEP processes that request should a clinic or a particular provider be closed off to that. So I'd have to get back to you on that and circle back with you to give you a specific answer on that.
Sure, that's fine.
I do know that in practice might be very different than how it's set up administratively. We've gotten that feedback, but I wouldn't want to speak out of turn.
That's fine. I'm just trying to, this is Dave. I'm just on an educational part here. I do have two questions on the plan that you're proposing. You'd mentioned that the total cap this year is $489,000. Is that our total of out-of-pocket potential? Is that what you're getting at with that number?
Yeah. So what that number represents is that number represents the difference between what our expected claims are and our protections that we have in for our specific and our aggregate stop loss, and what that maximum would be. So if between where we anticipate our expected claims and factoring in our lag, the difference between our cap, and we're at a 115% risk corridor, so 15% over our total expense. So to make the math simple, if it was $1 million, if we were expecting $1 million, we've got $150,000 to go. So that's what that represents. And generally, again, when we run it through our models, which probably most people don't care about, but these are pretty sophisticated models. We have two different models. We spend over $50,000 organizationally for these models, and they help us, run our rate setting for, our large self-insured groups like Lakeville Area Public Schools or Brainerd Public Schools or Moorhead. The math works for us. The math works for us because the chances of us reaching that is slim. We could, but the chances are slim that we would do that.
What you just mentioned 489 for the first year. What's your number for the second year? And I know you don't know until you see what the claims are for this year, but because we're talking about potential double-digit increases with another carrier, I'm just curious on, is there a projected number like another 20%? It's hard to say, I know.
So what we would anticipate seeing, and that's a great question. We don't have a second year rate cap in the self-insured environment, but what we do have is we have our experience, and we know that even in an environment where we were to incur the same amount of high claims, right? We've got individual protections there, and we're going to get money back from the stop loss carrier, right? So we take our 5.62% increase that we're proposing the board accept tonight. If we were to anticipate that next year, we're still, we're looking at 11.4% increase over 2 years. So we're still in that single digits. I'll remind the board and that currently medical trend that they're using right now is anywhere from 7.5% to 8.5%. So we're still below, and we feel very confident with our numbers where we're coming in at the 5.62%. Oftentimes what happens is it's not so difficult to give ourselves the increases that maybe we deserve to have, depending on how we're positioned relative to our reserve as we build that up over time. The challenge really becomes when we're doing well, is to what do we give ourselves? Do we give ourselves a 0? Do we give ourselves a reduction, or do we give ourselves a 2% or a 3% kind of on that rainy day? So what we see in every plan, even in a fully insured market or a pooled environment, is that we have these oscillations, right? We have these oscillations over time based on our claims. And when we take a look back at how we've run historically, we feel good based on the models and how the pooling charges looked out over this last renewal, that we're going to be able to put ourselves in a much better position to actually build up a reserve and give us some additional flexibility, whether that flexibility be with, again, putting in some cost mitigation strategies on deploying those, or if it's softening those renewals that we would have otherwise had. Our goal is to be at or below trend. That is our goal. Do we have to take some increases sometimes in other plans? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can happen. But we're monitoring that. It's fully transparent. We're seeing these claims come in. We know what they are. We're protecting those claims from a HIPAA perspective, of course, with our insurance committee members and our plan sponsor. But we have an idea of what those claims are and kind of, are we going to be counting them in for the next year, or are they going to come off? So probably a long-winded answer, Dr. Funk, on that. We don't know what it's going to be next year. But again, I think if we could say a target, it's going to be at trend or below.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Dave, I think in the interest of moving forward, we'll put a motion on the table to accept the recommendation of the committee, and then we can discuss it further.
Neil's made the motion to accept the recommendation of the insurance committee. Is there a second or other discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, Angie seconds. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. Angie?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
And Kenny?
Aye.
And I for myself, 7-0. Thank you, Aaron.
Okay, thank you very much, board.
Thanks, Aaron. We'll get to work.
Okay, 10.5, Policy 721, the Uniform Grant, final reading.
Yeah, this is the final reading. There's no changes from the prior readings.
Okay. Hearing no changes, is there a motion to accept Policy 721?
So moved.
Dennis makes a motion, a second?
I'll second.
And Kim makes a second. Any discussion? If not, let's go with a roll call vote again. Jill?
Email it.
Aye.
Okay. Kenny?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
And myself, aye also. Okay, next meeting looks like Monday, May 4th, and I guess we plan on a similar version of that. And I guess the last thing I have to do is say thank you for the meeting tonight, and stay healthy, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Aye.
Okay, so is this now? Is this kind of what you said?
Yeah, pretty much it.
Do we need to adjourn?
I just did. I adjourned it and I punched the little deal. Yep. Didn't we have a first and a second? Neil motioned to adjourn, and I'll second it. Sorry, Jill. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and they're all gone. Aye. My bad. Adjourn, sorry. I wonder, just a second, Mike, do I need to have this run through us too? Through legal at all? That Neil had this written up? Just, I mean, as long as we don't name anything else? Yeah. It looked good earlier, but I wanted to just make sure. Am I supposed to let somebody else see it quick before I sign it? It is.
Okay. Well, that's one thing I can check out.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out so long, guys.
Yeah, well,
Sorry for the question at the end. You knew I just had to. I know, I said, where's Dave? But I had to have something technical to think about. I had another one, but I don't know. It's something. Yeah, I think it seemed to go good. You know, I was,
I've been late to every Zoom meeting I've attended, so I
you did good.
I figured I better.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did good, thanks.
Mr. Roseball, to make that happen.
Should I send this to you, Mark?
Thank you, Dave.
Do you want me to send you?
Who's the person?
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Now you're gonna have,
So they can ask
gonna be,
questions, and you're gonna type a question.
You are the man, according to Mr. Ferris, my God.
Well, as I told Mr. Before, the administrative group is very happy with our insurance plan. Now, if we can get Halverson to work on our next contract, we'll be even happier.
Oh, good luck getting that thing.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry, Dave. I
It's
got
all right.
3 things for you to sign.
Okay,
All right,
that's fine.